So I couldn't resist the Candyland from the VBS Twist and Turns this year, but we can use games for so many things. And that's the one thing I want you to see through this. I will tell you, there's a lot of these things that you will go, oh, I know how to do that. But there's some new ones, because we want our jar full so that we are ready to pull them out and go whenever there's a need, because there are the whys and the whens of needing games for when we work with children, because they need that. Sometimes you got to fill some time. And a game is one that doesn't take any prep, is a great way to fill time. And there are lots of those we're going to talk about tonight. Sometimes things have just been too serious and you need something to break the tension and do something for fun. And that just for fun refocuses and releases the energy that gets built up in kids, because I don't know about you, I'm in school substituting, and they need to move. So we need to give them those opportunities to move, so that then they can refocus into something else. But we, of course, can use games to reinforce the Bible study, to help learn a verse, to teach them a concept that went with the Bible story, many ways. But of course, we want them to be effective, not just in our classroom, but maybe when we, especially with VBS, we're transitioning to a rotation or some other activity, and we may be waiting on another group to get done. And so anytime you're in line, it's a great time to do some kind of game to keep the craziness down, and so that they can focus on something, and you can not lose their attention. And of course, sorry. We all have those times when some activity's not quite ready to go in our classroom, and we will need something to fill that time. I know I said fill in time before, but I wanted you to think practically about that. So let's think about, we like quiet games. We also like things that don't take any prep. And so we're going to do these. I'm going to tell you that on each of these slides, because of my brain, they're all going to be in alphabetical order, so not necessarily in which ones I would choose to use. So camouflage is a game of hide and seek that can be done indoors or outdoors, but indoors, your facility may not work for it. But if you have lots of things that would easily be hidden behind, because whoever is it just looks and either says a person's name or what color they're wearing to get them out. So that's called a line of sight hide and seek. Quiet game, we know the quiet game. So think about, especially to go with our games of VBS, a game changer. That's your person that may be one that bounces off the walls and has a hard time being quiet, that you make them the person that tries to get somebody else to make noise. They're going to make faces, they're going to do silly things to try and get them to talk. So that kind of gives it a little bit of a change, so where they really want to stay quiet. And sleeping fish is very similar, except they're going to do this with their hands and pucker their mouth. And the game changers, their job is to get them, because they're not going to actually close their eyes, but they're going to get them to blink or laugh or do something that's not sleeping. And that's the sleeping part. And then silent copycat is just another name for like follow me or do what I do. But it's all just motions. If they talk, then they're out, which helps sometimes. It just helps calm a room to play a quiet game. And that's a great thing. So we like them. But we also like things that have a little noise, but don't have any prep to them. I have to tell you about 10. I played this game in 3rd and 4th grade today. I learned something similar when I first came to Vermont with a game called Pop, where you would give them a number and they had to count 1, 2, 3, 4, and whoever got to that number said pop and they were out. This one is similar, but you're always counting to 10. The trick is, as you're going around saying numbers, you can say from 1 to 3 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that kind of thing. And the object is to get the next person to say 10 so that they're out. And so it's a little strategy. Not great for younger kids, but it's a blast. It was a blast with 3rd and 4th grade today. Point and look is just any object that you put in the middle of a large circle. When you say point, everybody points at that object. When you say look, everybody points at somebody else and looks them in the eye. If 2 people are pointing at each other, they're out. So, and one thing I'm going to say is, and I learned this when I went to the conference that I got some of this from, is that sometimes have another game that doesn't take a lot of explanation ready for when those are out, they go right into another game. And it's an awesome thing to just keep going. Now, we all know rock, paper, scissors, but it's not totally quiet, but it keeps them busy. You may be able to figure out 3 things from your Bible story. I just find it difficult to change when you learn rock, paper, scissors, because and to figure out which one beats what, it was more than my brain could handle. Simon Says, we know how to play Simon Says, but you might incorporate some kind of motions that go with your Bible story to tie things in, because Simon can say, walk on water like Peter. He can say, pop out of the boat. He can say, a lot of different things. Thumb wrestling. We know how to do it. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. I declare thumb war. Tell them this is not a war. It's a game. And we're not in it to hurt anybody. Just to remind them. But this is one you could, and it'll be in the resource, come up with 3 lines or a little poem that goes with what you would normally say about I declare a thumb war. And anyway, you'll see those, and when they get, if they win, they move to a winner. If they lose, they go into losers. Keep going, and then so you can always get back into the winning with that one. Sometimes we need to play games just for fun. So A lot of us have seen the cookie challenge on like minute to minute games and stuff. With kids having to stand up and do it up here, putting a cookie on your forehead is not too easy for them to do. But lay them down on the floor, put it on their forehead, and they've got to get it there. As long as they don't touch it with their hands, they're good. And they can even use their shoulders. High-low. This is one I'd never heard of before. And you make your own deck because a deck of cards doesn't have enough numbers in it. But you make a deck anywhere from 1 to 30, 1 to 50, depending on your group. Shuffle them up except for the one, and put them in a stack. The one comes down first, so they all will get it right the first time. Because you will say, okay, is the next card higher or lower? And they stand up or sit down, depending on the high-low. So if they miss in the next rounds, then they'll out. And that's when it'd be good to have some other kind of game over to the side for them to do. Oh, we all know how to play hot potato, but change this one up a little bit and have them, if they can tell you something from the Bible story, if they can give you the memory verse, if they can do something related to what they've learned, then they can stay in the game. Kids always love paper airplanes. Have them write something to encourage another one of the class members, but not with a name, but just say, you're awesome, you can do it, those kinds of things on their paper before they make their airplane. On go, they throw them, and everybody picks up the one next to them and reads that and get some encouragement, and do that a couple of times so that they get to read several of the airplanes. Snowball. This is another paper game that you probably know how to play. Give them all a piece of paper. You can use your recycling up this way. But divide them into 2 groups and have on each side of your room have at least a 4-foot no man's zone in the middle, and they'll wad up their paper and they will on go, and for a minute you have a snowball fight. They can't get on in no man's zone. They, at least their body, they can grab snowballs that are there, but the object is to, after that minute, to be the one with the least amount of snow. We kind of like that sometimes up here, to have the least amount of snow. So tic-tac-toe, you could have, we all know how to play it, and the kids know how to play it a lot. It could be something that they could go to from one of the other games. But I love to do this in teams where they become the X's and the O's, and you make it out with masking tape on the floor, a tic-tac-toe board, and you can either just let them play, or you can have them answer questions from your Bible story so that they can even put their team's X or O on there. Okay. I've talked about some review games, but these are specifically designed to review. And this is, I made up the name to this one. I'm just going to tell you because I love to do this one, where you get either some heavy duty paper, or I like to just have pieces of cardboard. And the object is to get from one side of your room to the other and divide up into teams, but they're going to have less cardboard than they have number of players on their team. And so it's a team building thing to get across, but I thought it'd be great with the story of Jesus walking on water, and anyway, a great time to talk about that and how with God we can do anything. Mystery socks. Gather your funnest socks, clean of course, and get some of the things, or put something in them that relates to your Bible story. And they're not going to put their hands in it. They're going to feel from the outside and try to guess what is in those mystery socks. It can be really interesting what some of the guesses they have are. I've been flying and I'm going to catch my breath here. A lot of us know how to play what they call Night at the Museum. It's a frozen statue game. And, but have come up with 4 to 5 positions that fit your Bible story. I keep referring to Peter walking on water because it's one of the Bible stories in Twists and Turns, and so it's an easy one to do because you'll tell them the positions. So one is the fright position of them seeing Jesus and thinking he's a ghost. One's going to be one leg lifted up and Peter's getting out of the boat. He's just got one up and he's about to get out. Another one is him balancing, because he's not just going to be trompsing across there without going, he's going to be balancing. So they got to freeze like that. And the last one that I thought went real good with this would be him with his hand up to Jesus. And so the object of this game is to get through all of the different statues, positions, without being caught by, we're calling them game changers, that would be looking to catch. So one is the normal for a Night at the Museum game, but it gets a little bit harder if you have 2. And so that makes it even more challenging to have 2 that are trying to catch them moving. Pictionary. We know how to play Pictionary, where you draw on the paper or a whiteboard and only have so much time to guess what the picture is. But this is a great thing. You'll write down different parts of your Bible story for them to try and draw. You can do it as a whole group, or you can do it in teams for a great fun time. And telephone. We think, it's just only about teaching that we have to, we can't always trust what people tell us, but it's a fun way to take the motto or just part of the Bible verse, something simple that's not too long, because you don't want to give them this long thing that they're not going to get. But do it with 2 teams. Okay? You're going to tell them the first person on both teams, or even more if you got a lot of kids, what they're going to say, and then you're going to say start. but when they get to the end, don't let them just scream it out until everybody's done, and see who's closest to what you actually told them. I have to tell you, we played a lot of these games, and even adults love to laugh and have fun, especially when it doesn't come out right. So, sometimes some extra prep is worth it for what it's going to accomplish. And I know all the times our materials are in there, but sometimes it doesn't work for us, and we want to get something else. Now I'm going to in the resource sheet, it's going to have a website that you can create your own bingo. And for preschoolers, it's a fun way to get them involved. But you can do all kinds of different bingo things, and then print them without having to worry about, okay, this card needs to have these different ones, and this card needs to have this different ones. That website does it all for you, and it's great. Because bingo's a fun game, especially when you use candy for markers. An obstacle course. And I thought about this. Even an obstacle course can teach them about things. I mean, I keep going back to this story, but you could figure out a way to have them do, almost through an obstacle course, reenact Peter walking on water. I just think there's lots of ways to use it. But these things take more prep. A scavenger hunt. You can do lots of different Bible stories with a scavenger hunt, but it does take some preparation and some thought processes to get all of that planned out. I have to tell you that last week, or a couple of weeks ago, they did a scavenger hunt at the school. And even preschoolers can do, or young kids can do something that's simple, because you can use pictures, and scavenger hunts can be, finding things is always fun. Finding things is always fun. And then I'd never heard of this, where you get either a tub, a bag, a box, something, and you fill it with just miscellaneous things. A cup, just all kinds of things, just different things you have in your classroom, just anything. And have a student pull something out and try to relate it to the Bible story or to what you've been talking about. I think that can be ingenious, to get them to think differently. And so I'm interested in trying that one for myself. Haven't yet, but I'm looking forward to doing it. We do an after school group, and I'm looking forward to doing that. Okay. Preschoolers. I love them. They're so much fun. But they take a little bit different kind of games. Bubbles isn't technically a game, but if you got them around, they're handy. If you don't overdo it, you can still do them inside. It just brings joy to them. With preschoolers, singing something and moving is great to get the wiggles out and that kind of stuff. And I know this song, Head and Shoulders, Knees and Toes. I know it that way, and then I know another one that you just start with head and shoulders, baby, 1, 2, 3. So whatever song you know that goes with that is great, and it's will get some wiggles out. So will the hokey pokey, and these are things you know, but we forget about them. When I was thinking about preschoolers because I added this part to it, and I just went, oh, some of those tried and true things need to be pulled out a lot more than we do. This is just a fun one where you can either sing a song or you can play music and have them move and wiggle and then stop the music or just say freeze, because they love to just stop and then start again and stop. So move and freeze, move and freeze. Here's one for us that are doing twists and turns. I named it because it didn't have a name, Uno Action. So you take a regular deck of Uno cards. You do pull out the wild cards because they don't really work for this. And you decide for each color an action for them to do. Whether it is touch their head, jump up and down, put their elbow to their other knee, hop, skip, some kind of moving action that the whole group will do, but you pull the card and say, if red is hopping and you pull a red 3, then everybody will hop 3 times, and then play goes to the next person. And so forth. Whatever color is the action, whatever number is how many times the whole group does it. You leave the reverse card in, and of course, play goes back to the other way. You leave the skip in, and that skips the child. And you leave the draw 2. So if somebody gets a draw 2, if they draw it, then they have to pick 2 more cards. But instead of the whole group doing those actions for that many times, that one person has to do those actions by themselves and have a great time playing this. You know, you can have the kids suggest actions. My brain doesn't load those things and keep them very well. So I'd want to write them down. Red's this, blue's this, green's this, yellow's this, so that you can remember. They probably will. And then maybe the next time, you know, have them give you and you may switch which color, or you may even switch actions. But it's a great way to involve them and move, and it's a fun game. What's missing? Preschoolers love to play what's missing. So with the really young preschoolers, if you do 2s and 3s, just cover whatever you show them things and talk about what they are, and just put something over one thing and ask them to tell you what's under it. But with 4s and 5s, you know, spread out whatever you've got, and cover it with, depending on the size, a bandana, or if you're going big, a parachute. Okay, and when you cover it, you take one of them out, And then they try to figure out, when you lift it, what's missing. They love to do what's missing. And that you can have parts of the Bible story or something that represents that, and review with that. But of course, our whole intent and purpose, even in games, is to point them to Jesus. And so sometimes we use a story and a game. And so the first one I want to tell you about is have them do human wheelbarrow races. And then after they're tired, they set them down and tell them the story of Charles Blondin, who was a tightrope walker who walked across Niagara Falls multiple times. But he did it one time with a wheelbarrow. And when he he actually walked all the way to Canada and then back with the wheelbarrow. And when he got back to the United States side, he said, "Do you think I can push somebody in this wheelbarrow across Niagara Falls?" And of course they said, "Oh, yes, you can do that. That would be awesome." And then he asked them, who would volunteer? Silence. No one was willing to volunteer. No one was willing to trust him enough, to have faith in him enough to volunteer. Our younger kids are not going to understand this, but the older kids will. And they'll realize that trust in Jesus means we let him run our life. All right, I'm going to try to tell this story, and I'm going to back up so you can see. There was this man who had lots of things, but he just wasn't happy. So a friend told him he needed to buy himself a boat. So you start with it. And so, because if he bought a boat, he could go all over the world and see and go to exotic places and taste exotic foods and all kinds of wonderful things in a boat. So he bought a boat and he traveled the world. And he came back and he still wasn't happy. So another friend told him, what you need is a house. You need a house that you can fill with wonderful things to live with. And so you need a house. So he bought a house. And he filled this house with all kinds of technology things. He had a swimming pool and a hot tub and a game room and all kinds of things. But he still wasn't happy. Another friend came and told him, oh, what you need is to buy a plane. You need to buy a plane so that you can look at things from a more lofty view and see things differently. So you need to buy a plane and travel all over, soar through the clouds, and just feel free. So he bought himself a plane. And he flew around the world. And when he got home, he said, I've done all these things and I'm still not happy. Well, another friend came and told him, to be happy, you just need to meet my Jesus. So there's many ways. That one is not necessarily a game, but it's always a great illustration to help us to realize that the gospel's the main focus, but we need kids that are engaged. And that's what the games help us to do. They help us to engage the kids into the story, into the gospel message. And I pray that as you figure out ways to use games, that you can truly show them who Jesus is. So I thank you for listening to me. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me.
That was well done, Jan. That was great. Like drinking from a fire hose, huh?
Yes, exactly. That's a good point.
That is. Now, put in the chat, what's your favorite game? What would be a game that you find that really helps you to keep the kids engaged when you're doing, okay, Dave says telephone. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Somebody else?
Somebody else says the same thing. Yeah, good. Yeah, games is just a great, really a good tool. And I loved how you...
Oh, Head and Tails.
Okay.
I need to look that one up.
Yeah. And I loved how you shared about the fact that some were low prep and some were quiet, and then some do take preparations. And it's amazing how many games that are out there that we play that we can incorporate in our VBS or in our Sunday morning Bible studies and things like that with kids.
So David said he liked the paper cross story, and I never actually heard this story that I gave y'all until I went to the conference I learned this from. And so that was a different way. I've used folding the cross, but I never heard it that way. And that gave it a totally different dimension.
Yeah. And I think that you could actually have I'm assuming you'd have the kids make it with you. Make it with you. Yeah. And how impactful that is when they, when you have them tear that little piece off and then it becomes the cross. I think that's pretty neat. So that's great. And I see somebody said Connect 4. Yeah, that's a very popular one. Yeah, I like that game myself. And of course, What is Missing? And I loved the whole thing about the thinking, putting the objects in a bag or a box or something like that.
Yeah.
That's always a good thing. Yep. And I noticed I'm with Cleanne, she mentioned about the Uno game. You could even play that with older kids. I think that would be kind of fun for them.
You might want some little more difficult motions or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I found that one online, that some mom did that. And I went, oh, I love this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the sky is the limit, when it comes to games, even board games that we have at home, there may be, we could do Bible questions I think like a Monopoly or something like that. If you're playing that, instead of, you having the little cards or something like that and use the questions for review, something like that, figure out.
That would take a little thought.
It would take some thought, but think about even board games. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm always looking for a bargain. And so, I think that, going to the Savers or Salvation Army or some other place where I can get, games and puzzles and things like that so that I can, create something to use in my classroom. I do like that. So, so that's great. That's great.